I'm Jim Collison and live from Omaha, Nebraska. This is Gallup's Theme Thursday, Season 2, recorded on June 2nd, 2016. Theme Thursday is a Gallup webcast series that dives deep into the CliftonStrengths Finder themes, one theme at a time, and today's theme is harmony. If you have any questions, comments, or contributions during this webcast, we do have a live chat room that's available for you. It's actually rocking and rolling right now, right below the video window here. Or if you're catching the recorded version of this, we have great ways for you to interact with us as well. You can send us your questions, comments, or contributions into our email address, coaching@gallup.com. Don't forget to visit the Gallup Strength Center, just gallupstrengthcenter.com, for all your coaching resources and StrengthsFinder training needs. And you can also catch the video on both streaming and downloadable audio for offline listening to past shows. If you're catching on to this idea of listening to podcasts on the road and recapturing that time that you'd normally be in a car, on a train, and a plane, by the way, great idea to do that for professional development purposes. Those times you're just sitting there, plug that in, listen to it. We have all the audio-only options. Maybe you've just been watching us on YouTube. We have all those available at our coaches blog, our award-winning, I'm going to call it now that, an award-winning coaches blog, coaching.gallup.com. Mike, a special milestone for us on the blog this month, for the month of May of 2016, record. We set a record, 32,000 views, 32,322, but who's counting? Just say.
Views. Yay! Special shout out to our team. Thanks, Kate and Jessica. It's been fantastic. You know what that is? 32,000 and something people who know a little bit more about strengths.
Yeah, great resource, great opportunity. Hope we say this all the time at the end of the program, that if you found this helpful, we'd like you to share it. And that's one of those things we actually really want you to do. It is if you can share that, and we monitor and track all those. We set a record about 12,500 audio downloads to our podcast channel. So if you're, I mentioned if you're listening on the road in a train or in a plane. I was just traveling back and forth to DC, and I listened to podcasts all the way there. 3 hours on the plane, all the way back, and recapture that time by getting some great information. We have that all available for you. And if you actually go to the coaches blog, coaching.gallup.com/subscribe, all the ways to get everything from us, email reminders, big buttons for your iPhone or if your Android device so you can subscribe to it that way, how to get it on Stitcher, how to get it through Spreaker, all that stuff is available there. And so some of you have asked me, how do I do it? Well, head out to the coaching.gallup.com/subscribe. And if you still have questions after that, let me know. Micah, we are talking about harmony today, and we're pretty excited about it. Why don't we dig in a little bit, and you start with how we define this.
So if you take a look at our companion guide, the first thing that you have is the short definition of harmony. Of course, that's the same definition you're going to find on the theme sequence report. So if you have somebody who pulls that report from their website or as soon as they take the assessment, it's the same definition that you'll see there. It sounds like this. People exceptionally talented in the harmony theme look for consensus. They don't enjoy conflict, rather they seek areas of agreement. This is probably one of the themes I spend more time speaking about than others with folks when they see it on their report, and it's maybe one of the quickest to be misunderstood. Perhaps people just stop at harmony and don't even read the short definition, and I often have a lot of people worry if it's really high because they think it sounds very fluffy and like they're just sort of skipping through the meadows and picking daisies and braiding them into their hair. I don't know, but people tend to worry about it not having enough weight or enough clout if it's high, and if it's low, people tend to sort of worry, gosh, do I not care about collaboration? Neither of those is true. I think harmony, the best way that I've described it to people is harmony is a laser beam or a regulator. It's that ability to very clearly understand the place where a group of people agree so that you can move forward. It is a relationship building theme. I think more than anything what harmony wants is efficient forward progress. And harmony gets to that forward progress by understanding the opinions, the needs, and the abilities of the people around them. So it really is focusing on people and focusing on where people can work best together rather than where they might have conflict.
It definitely carries a ton of theme bias in a lot of ways. It's very, very strong. Much like Woo carries this, talker, type. I think harmony carries that same theme bias, and I think Kurt would always say we want to love all 34 themes, and I think if you didn't get a chance to go back and listen to season 1 harmony, Sherry Tier just knocks it out of the park. Yeah. And so that's definitely worth going. Don't do it now. Just hang tight. It's there. We recorded it for you. Micah, in some ways, I wish we'd have called this a mediator. I think it's a better or worse, I'm not saying, but for whatever reason, that word harmony kind of denotes like we're out walking through a field of flowers and kumbaya-ish, where I really think what harmony's power is in this idea of consensus or mediation, being able to bring disparate or fighting groups together in making it work. It's as a manager with high harmony. Now I'm not saying, but someone who would be a people manager with high harmony could be very, very valuable. We sometimes see it as a negative because it's like we're trying to create a kumbaya, which we in our American culture seems very weak. And yet the ability to mediate, or when we think about, in our State Department, this is like when we have to mediate terms between two countries or a country and our own. That's super important stuff. So I want people to understand this harmony theme is super important. Anything to add to that?
I would say, first of all, there's nothing wrong with kumbaya. There's nothing weak about kumbaya. Even if it does exist for you in a fluffier state, that's a good thing. Let's realize maybe our bias is toward not just the idea of the theme of harmony, but the entire idea of it. Harmony is a really powerful thing. On top of that, this is what gets successful people towards success, just like all the rest of these. I really love the word harmony if you think about it in a musical sense. And that's where I can't do a sports analogy to save my life, but I can bring us back with metaphors that involve music. Harmony is when a whole bunch of different notes work together. The opposite of harmony is dissonance. And if you spend too much time listening to dissonant notes or notes that don't work. So last weekend, my husband and I were watching an older Western movie. And we both commented on how interesting the soundtrack was, and because what was interesting about it was that it was completely uninteresting. It was, if there was a tense moment, there was just two notes right next to each other that were just held for a really long time, to the point that we had to turn it down in order to pay attention to what was happening, because it was sort of painful to listen to. And in fact, if you listen to dissonant notes too long, they can actually affect your inner ear and make you sick. So I think if you realize that the opposite of getting along is not moving forward in terms of somebody with high harmony, that's how they would understand it. Then it's resolution, which musically that's actually a term. It's how you go from dissonance to harmony is through resolution, and I think that is certainly, you can see that as an activity. It's not just a state of mind. It's something that you do.
Yeah, peacemaker, for sure. Let's talk about this theme's power and edge.
Yeah, the power, the edge of harmony is really in practicality. So listen to this. The particular brilliance of the harmony theme is its natural practicality and preference for emotional balance. In season 1, both Sherry Tier and Kurt Liesfeld, they do this symbol. They take their hands and they move them down very quickly, almost like this calming feeling. Emotional balance. Let's realize that some people might be in peaks and troughs of emotions, and what harmony does is regulate that, bring it to a place of balance. By reducing friction, people especially talented in the harmony theme can enhance collaboration. They avert many contentious interactions before they start, and they quickly help others find a resolution. That's part of it being a relationship building theme, is you can understand maybe where potential conflict might arise because you're sensing that, or you're aware of it, not from a cerebral standpoint, but more of an emotional place. You can feel where people might waste time in conflict and strategically help them avoid it.
Yeah, Sherry Tier has a big part in our CliftonStrengths Summit coming up, a big planning part of what she's doing. I think as I'm watching her do this, by the way, July 18th, 19th, and 20th here in Omaha, if you haven't signed up yet, there's still time to do it.
There's still time, but not many hotel rooms. I booked mine yesterday.
Yeah, they're filling up fast. Omaha's busy in the summer, and so you might want to get in on that if you can. We have some blocks that are available for you. But Sherry is in the midst, I mean, putting a conference together like this, of this size, and all the opinions. Trust me, I get emails from people all the time with their opinions of what we should do during the Strength Summit. We always appreciate those, some great ideas. But you need someone in the middle of that, and I think it's successfully, that has harmony, that's able to kind of make all those pieces work together, and because there's a lot of conflict that begins. People have very strong ideas about this. And so it's fun as you think about it. If you're coming to join us, you should definitely thank Sherry. Watch her on the video first, and then thank her while you're here for all the work that she's doing. When we think about it in its raw and mature state, how do we see it?
Well, you know what? I think harmony, bringing us back to the idea of you can help people avoid conflict, you're probably more aware of potential conflict than other people, and that can come out in a raw state as fear of conflict or as running from conflict. And I think the mature version of that is running through conflict or bringing people with you through that conflict. I mentioned that laser beam before. Harmony at a boardroom table can be, sit there and listen to people have differing opinions back and forth, and then be the sage voice that says, hey guys, here's where we're on the same page. Why don't we just move forward there? And I've been in situations where it's happened like that, and it is almost shoots you through the eyes with practicality, like, oh, why couldn't I do that? But raw harmony maybe could know that and not be bold enough to say it, or could just not have the patience for having to listen through things and therefore just run away from it. This next one comes from something I picked up from Kurt Liesfeld. Raw harmony requires peace. Mature harmony responds with peace. So I think he says needs peace or brings peace, but I think that maturity can say, here's where we're all on the same page. And again, it's this beautiful practicality about it. It's not about imagining a creative alternative that we haven't thought about. It's not about finding bits and pieces of where we all agree. It's about the practical necessity to move forward together.
What else when we think about raw and mature?
Okay, so this one I got a little artistic. Bear with me. Raw harmony is like a stone. It absorbs nothing, and if it can't build in the right place, you throw it somewhere else and it builds something somewhere else. Mature harmony is like a sponge. It's considerate, it soaks up what's going on, and then it releases the right pieces. So I think that it's similar to that sort of fight or flight piece around that we talked about before. The stone analogy is, you know what, I'm just going to shut off listening because there's this conflict here. I can't be present in it. It's driving me crazy. I have no patience for all of you disagreeing. And so I'm just going to go like chill out in the corner or do, join a different team, have a different priority where there is peace. Whereas the sponge has a lot more patience. It's about, I'm going to be here, I'm going to listen, I'm going to understand where the experts are in the room and what their opinions are, and I'm going to soak all that up and then also help you see it. So there's that releasing piece of it too. I think because harmony can listen for opinions and can listen for voices and almost decipher between them, whereas without harmony you might just hear noise, you might hear conflict, and it's not just about conflict, it's about ideas as well. You might just hear sort of brainstorm. Harmony hears the individual voices within that storm, and really mature harmony can help us point those out and highlight the experts, the opinions, the ideas. What do you think, Jim? Did that work? A stone or a sponge?
A stone or I like it. I have to kind of think through it. I like the idea of you throw that stone. You think of water traveling right down, and it moves it instead of a sponge interacts with it. And so it's one of those. Oh, I like it. Nice job. Good work.
Thanks.
You are definitely investing in your talent there. So
Thank you.
what about we'll talk about that here in a second. But what about the last one?
Yeah, one more. I think raw harmony can be dismissive because you're looking for what we have in common. If you feel like you're too busy, that you're going to have to work too hard to find areas of commonality, you could sort of dismiss people. If you don't see enough hope for harmony, you could give up kind of quickly. Whereas mature harmony is inclusive, helping us see where are the bits and pieces that we agree, and maybe working a little bit harder to help people come to that practical standpoint of agreement.
We had somebody on the Facebook group this week kind of ask us, and I think rightly so, when we think about the investment that we make into these, when we go from raw to mature, and maybe generally give us some insight. Like, there's always that around that question: what kind of things can I do,
Mhm.
or how should I be making these investments? Micah, when you're thinking about that, and I looked at the bottom, I wasn't sure if you had that down there or not. Did
Yeah.
you? Did I go too early on this one?
No, you're fine. I
Okay,
think
good.
one thing that people with high harmony should be thinking about is how do you feed that harmony? And what harmony hungers for, again, is efficient, practical forward progress that is team based or collaborative forward progress. So think about how good are you at reading nonverbal cues? How quickly can you pick up on what people are saying? Maybe it's about even literally learning a language that you didn't know before. Maybe that's a language of process, or maybe it's actually a language like learning English. But I think if you can be more equipped to pick up on what people are saying, that's an investment in harmony. So take a class in communication, take a class in body language, even look at how could you polish your negotiating skills or your conflict resolution skills. I mean, there's plenty of books or courses or I think thinking partners who could help hone your natural talent for negotiation and conflict resolution. Just build upon that.
On our theme insight cards, we have "I love," "I hate" statements. And are there some clues there if we think about some things to do when we think about investing in these themes? Do those give us some clues of some things we can be doing from an investment standpoint?
Of course, I think part of it more simply and more generally is how do you spend more time in areas that you love? How do you set up habits and structures around your work life and your personal life that position you to spend more time in areas that you love? And how do you set up your work life and your personal life so that you can avoid having to perform in areas that you hate? So that's probably the aim it in a nutshell around name it, claim it, and aim it of StrengthsFinder. It's about developing a language of understanding yourself, finding out where the value is, and then taking action to make sure that you are thriving in the situations where you're already thriving. I don't have a theme insight card in front of me. Do you have one for
I
harmony?
don't. No, I don't. Sorry.
I imagine they hate negative effects of friction. They hate maybe, I don't know, loss of productivity. What do you know? I'm reading that from the other side of our our companion guide here. They probably love the sacrifice of personal agendas to facilitate group performance. So again, it's how do you help groups? How do you? I think a study in collaboration, or even a study in how teams work together, it would be a great investment there. I think about people with high harmony being maybe uniquely positioned to be leaders in disparate locations working together, or sort of telecom collaboration. Of course, that's just my ideation sort of going crazy. But what harmony has the natural talent for is helping people see each other's value in order to move toward a goal together.
Yeah, and I think even putting yourself into a situation, whether it be at work or in maybe a church or whatever, where you get an opportunity to mediate between two sides, right? You get to be in a
Yeah.
role where that is a natural tendency. A lot of people have said, since I started podcasting 6 years ago, a lot of people said, man, I really like hearing you in a radio voice. Well, if you go back and listen to some of my early podcasts 6 years ago, it wasn't there. Some of the value in what I do is because I say those statements. I mean, how many times, Micah, do you think I've said live from the Gallup campus here in Omaha, Nebraska, right? You practice it. I put myself in a situation. Now, that's communication for me, and
Hmm.
so I practice that every single week in what we do. And yes, I've gotten better. And so when we think about investing in these themes, think about putting yourself into roles where you get to do this and get feedback on it, right? Where you get to exercise it, right?
And I think that there's always an element of disequilibrium when you're learning, but I'll also reflect upon how much are you enjoying this? Because if it's a real strength, you can do it with ease, excellence, and enjoyment. So if you head down a path and you feel like, gosh, I'm doing this because I'm investing in my talent, it's the right thing to do, but it doesn't feel good, maybe there's a different path. So,
Yeah.
I'm thinking specifically with harmony here, it's not just about being the leader who says, here's where we need to go because we all agree. Very often, people with high harmony are very aware of the right questions to help other people's voices be heard so that we can move forward. it might not necessarily be about them being the tip of the spear or the first person to stand up for a cause or to say something. I think an investment into harmony is gathering experts around you and knowing who are my go-to experts for certain opinions or certain facts or certain abilities, and being a master networker at being able to bring those people together. I even heard this, I think Shane said this on the Facebook page. Shane, hi buddy, this week, where he said, there's a couple things that I will stand up for and be the face of, but not all, not everything. I think harmony can figure out what's the residual effect going to be, and sometimes they might be more powerful bringing in somebody and helping them have a pedestal for their speech rather than being that person. And it's not a weakness. I think it's a fantastic trait. Again, it's all about collaboration and how do we do this together.
Yeah, and that may be a raw and mature, right? The raw is fighting every battle, and the mature is understanding which ones can be mediated well. Certainly, doing everything is not effective. Sometimes we're getting in the middle of every single conflict, and so some opportunities. Of course, we know it's influenced by the themes that are around it. So let's talk about some complementary themes.
Of course. So if you're thinking about how do I find a partner to play off of who might enhance my harmony, one thing you might look for is command. Somebody with command can help you attack the conflict when your efforts aren't being heard. So I think about harmony as a regulator. Harmony usually has their thumb on the pulse of where should we go that we all agree, but usually some patience if we're not all agreeing there. But sometimes that patience can wear thin, or sometimes we don't have time for as much time as it would take for everyone to realize we're on the same page. So a partner who has command could, I think, use the intel of harmony to move us toward agreement a little quicker. Also, think about having a partner with context, somebody who's going to be looking backward and understanding the past. I think that could enhance harmony's ability to find areas of agreement and to land us all in consensus by saying, how do we add cause, not necessarily cause as of in cause and effect. How do we add the cause to the current agreement that we're looking for? What has and hasn't worked in the past?
There's some great insight when we look at the likely and unlikely pairings that go with it. And we'll talk about theme dynamics here in a bit, but let's look through some of the unlikely pairs that may come with harmony.
Yeah, so the least likely to show up with somebody with high harmony is ideation. And that comes not from our idea of what's the opposite, because there really is no opposite. What it comes from is a representative sample of people who've completed StrengthsFinder and then looking at what does or does not show up in their top 5 alongside harmony. Least likely is ideation. Now, ideation is more about what if, whereas harmony is about what is. Ideation is about potential, and I think harmony is about practical. Ideation is a little bit in the clouds, whereas harmony is on the ground. So you can understand why these might not happen together all the time. Ideation's connecting disparate phenomena in order to come up with a creative solution, whereas I think harmony is about connecting existing realities in order to move us forward. They sound similar, and I think they could look similar, which might be why they don't hang out together as often. If you did have both in your top 5, I think about it being creative togetherness, being able to move forward from a place of creativity, but to do it alongside those people that you bring along with you.
Yeah, and I think ideation doesn't care sometimes what it is, where harmony does. And so right. I will just spew out where with harmony there's concern about those that are a part of it. I have this high ideation, and I'll give you a million ideas, not necessarily thinking about the implications. Where harmony does.
I have high ideation, and I've driven one of my good friends with harmony crazy. I know I have. She wouldn't tell me because that wouldn't be harmony, but I've picked up on times where I've been throwing out, I'll have a problem, and in order to think through the problem, I'll throw out 300 possible solutions. I won't place judgment on any of them. It'll just be that process of getting all my ideas out. Her high harmony hears opinions. It doesn't necessarily, unless I caveat that by saying, hey, I'm just brainstorming, she hears, I might need 300 things. And that can be really frustrating if high ideation and I have low harmony, so I'm not listening for the practical, but she is picking up practical pieces in everything that I'm throwing out there. And so it can be confusing and probably misleading. So it's just about communicating them together. But you could obviously have them both, and that'd be a powerful combination.
Yeah, and I think it also a complementary theme in some ways, even though
Yeah.
they're farthest apart when we think about them. Complementary in the fact that coming up with some ideas on how to, hey, we're stuck in this situation. Someone high in ideation can come up with a bunch of different ideas that someone with harmony can pick and mediate with.
You know, it happened to me last week. So, same friend, high harmony, she was facing a problem and very practically looked at the realities of what could she do to get around it. And she was about to sort of bend herself a lot further than she really needed to, because she came to me, we talked through it, and I said, well, have you thought about this, or this? Because they didn't exist yet. They were simply ideas. They were creative alternatives that weren't yet in the universe. She hadn't considered them. And we ended up coming up with a creative way of her not having to flex quite so much. So think about it as a complementary partnership. If you've got high harmony, before you think you have to move forward from what's already in the ether, tap into somebody with ideation and look for maybe what's not there yet.
That's great insight. What about likely? What's the most
Yeah.
likely?
Most likely pair, I think it happens something like 30% of the time. If you have high harmony, you also have high responsibility. So responsibility is I have to get it done. Harmony is we need to do it together. So if you have them both, you're probably, I really like this pairing here, a practical promise keeper. So there's an others focus to both responsibility and harmony. Responsibility is, of course, an executing theme, and the others focus is who's counting on me to execute. Whereas harmony, the others focus is who else is this going to affect and how can we do it. So it's that relationship building side of things. I think they both probably bring an element of loyalty. And probably communicate sincerity, since they deal a little bit more in reality and in facts. But certainly a powerful combination when you see them both.
Josh Keller, who's in the chat room, I just saw him a week or two ago. He was in for training. Josh, good to see you. He has Harmony 3 and Responsibility 4, so he's kind of the poster child for those likely pairs that are together. Micah, any final thoughts before we dive into some theme dynamics? Final thoughts on harmony?
I often get people who want to know a little bit about the difference between harmony and adaptability, because adaptability can sound a lot like harmony, and they're both about relationships. I think harmony is that laser beam, turn down the noise and proceed where we agree. Whereas adaptability is probably a little bit more like a lava lamp. You know, I can handle noise, I can handle change, I can bend and flex to get another single person where they need to go. It's not quite so much about the group, whereas harmony is. I really like, I was speaking to a British client yesterday, and I remembered a phrase that I used to use quite a bit when I lived in the UK, and it was get on. Which is, in the US we'd say, how did it go? In the UK they'd say, how did it get on, or how did you get on? And I think you could use that to describe harmony, which is let's all get along so that we can get on or get on with it. It really is that it's not just I want us to get along so that we can sit together and love each other. It's I want us to get along because that's how we get something done. Other pieces, if I were coaching somebody with harmony, I'd want to help them think about how they can increase the number of voices that other people are hearing. So think about your best discussion questions that have helped people come to clarity, or think about what questions you've used that have helped other people come to the truth of a situation. Invest in your ability to help people talk to each other. And I think you can never oversell the value of practical agreement. Oftentimes other people who don't have harmony don't understand what we get out of something if we agree, whereas somebody with high harmony could get frustrated because they know that's so valuable. Think about reminding those of us who don't have high harmony, reminding what agreement gets us. And you could do it very quickly, sort of at the beginning of, before you ask a really great question. It could be something as simple as teeing it up with, hey, I think we all bring powerful voices, and if we did this together, it would be better than if we all tried to do it alone. Therefore, I think we agree on this page. So just a little bit of introducing it and reminding people what the value is of agreement.
Mike, I think you mentioned here a second ago, I think the value of a coaching oftentimes is having great questions. I think sometimes we think it's having great answers. right? And the answers really come from those we are coaching, and the questions help bring those out. And so I love that idea that you said, of having these questions ready that help people really dig in. What have you done in the past that has brought this? Where you've exercised this, or where you've used this, or you've had success, or you've felt in the flow. I think those are really good. It's a really good exercise, and I think we started something like that on the Facebook group a while back, and it may be in the files section. So if you go to facebook.com/groups/called to coach, if you haven't joined us over there, we just went over 6,000, by the way, another milestone in the group there, 6,000. I think that's a great exercise for coaches or for anyone as we think about these themes and others. What kind of questions do we ask that helps people come to their own conclusions?
That's so big, Jim. And I think the more enthralled we get with StrengthsFinder, the more tempted we get to diagnose. Where, I will see very often, people will say, here's my top 5, what advice would you give me? And really the answer should be, I can't give you any advice. I would ask you some questions. We are, as strengths coaches, we're not diagnosing. We are maybe, Kurt always used to call us inquisitive scientists. We can come up with some theories based on the science that we understand of StrengthsFinder, and then it's just our job to test those theories out and to realize that the most important part of coaching is the other human being, and that their experience is going to change the way that they see their strengths, the way that they use them, and the best thing that we could probably be asking, rather than here's my top 5, what advice would you give me, is maybe we should start asking, here's my top 5, or here's the one for the week, what would be a great question to help me understand it better, or to help me put a voice to it better, or to help both of us together really understand how it plays out in our world.
Yeah, and I think in the world of name it, I joke about that we spend a lot of time thinking and talking about these themes. I think some of the aiming features for coaches is in great questions that they ask, and turning those into powerful, in other words, what we know about how other people have experienced these themes don't give us a prescription to prescribe, but an opportunity to ask. And so it's one of those things where I just love to see us ask more questions.
Yeah.
And all the time on Facebook, somebody will say that they'll pop in, hey, I've got these. What do I do? And I always say, I don't know. How are you currently using them? What kind of situation are you in? How is it working? I think we have to ask. This is why Facebook's not great for coaching, by the way, but it is one of those things where I think we should just ask endless amounts of questions. I got a chance to be coached by Jackie Merritt a couple months ago. The whole session, she never said one thing. All she did was ask questions. And it was a great session. I walked away from it. So as we get together for the summit, let's think about that, these great questions. And like I said, I think we started a question guide in the Facebook group, and if we didn't, we probably should. Micah, let's dig in a little bit into the theme dynamics portion of what we're going to do. I'm going to set it up. Would you talk a little bit about what it is?
Yeah, so what we're looking at here is the reality that every theme is going to change based on the other themes that you have around it in your own top 5. How one theme plays off another theme is what we call theme dynamics. What we did is on our Facebook group called To Coach, we every week give you the opportunity to vote on which themes you'd like to hear blended with harmony. Great question somebody threw out was, hey, why are you guys voting for which ones you're voting for? A lot of people say they vote for them because they think they're going to be difficult to pair, or they might seem contradictory, which is always great to hear what it would look like in a person. Other people vote because they know people who have this other theme blended with the theme of the week. And the way that we're looking at this is an invaluable tool. It's through the ebook Expanding Your Strengths by Kurt Liesfeld, which is available on Amazon. When you purchase the book, you get access to this app, which is why it's an ebook. And what you can do is you can use this pull-down menu and blend 2 themes together, and then hear, in Kurt's words, 140 characters or less, what might these sound like if you had both of them. The first one that we've got up here is 2 relationship building themes, harmony plus individualization. It sounds like this. You try to reduce the tension on a team, and you don't let conflicts get to the point where anyone is compromised or devalued. So individualization is about picking up on the nuances and the uniqueness of the individuals who you work with. I often joke that sometimes if you have high individualization, your answer to everything is, well, it depends. Because people with high individualization are always well in tune to the fact that there's a human element that could change things, and they're able to treat each person differently based on who they are. I think about boiling this down to two words, and I've got a practical pragmatist or a perceptive pragmatist, somebody who's really picking up on, think about that idea of building your experts and knowing who around the table has experience, nuances, opinions, expertise in specific places, and then using those experts to bring us toward consensus. If you had harmony and individualization, it's almost like you're the leader of the superheroes who could understand pulling in different superpowers to get us all to save the world together.
That's great. I think getting back to this, the idea of the question, since day one, since we started doing this voting, I always hoped what happened last week would have happened every week, which is we would have lobbied for our favorite and put in there why we picked the ones that we did pick. And that was great conversation. So for the rest of the year, let's invite that as we put that. I put that every Monday morning or so. I put those voting pairs out for you to get in there. And I just love a little bit of a little bit of competition in there, and why. I think the discussion was more important than the voting in some ways. We really got an opportunity.
Have them both. Go ahead and tell us what they sound like for you. The idea of theme dynamics is really fun to do without a person, but when you meet someone with both of these, the best thing to ask them is how do they play out for you?
Yeah.
So if you've got them both, tell us, in the comment section, how do they work for you? How do they work together?
Let's do that for sure. It was great. I just kind of watched the conversation go through, and everybody was lobbying, and I thought, yes, finally we're to that point. You don't want to manufacture that, but that had always been a hope of mine that people begin to do that. So nice work. Let's keep doing it. Let's look at harmony and empathy.
Yeah, another relationship building theme. A lot of those popped up this week. Empathy is about sensing what other people are feeling what other people are feeling yourself. When you add that to harmony, I think it deepens your ability to quickly come to places where we agree. Or it sounds like this: expressing emotions is natural and good. If strong emotions get in the way of group progress, you can manage them and reduce tension. So I think what's interesting what Kurt says here is you can manage the emotions of others. That harmony adds to empathy almost an ability to do something about it. So I often joke, but it's true, empathy by itself doesn't mean you care about what other people are feeling. It just means that you feel it. Empathy with harmony means you feel it and you care about getting to a place where we're agreeing.
This one had come up earlier in the discussion, and that's harmony and command.
Yeah, so cool. We talked about this as being a complementary theme, having somebody else with command who could help you out. If you had them both, command is an influencing theme. It's about being able to boldly stake a claim or help people follow in a direction that you know they need to go. You create clarity by expressing your own strong emotions. You create consensus by managing the strong emotions of others. Think about the stability that comes from having both harmony and command. It is probably a lack of patience for wasted conflict. Maybe not a lack of, not a fear of conflict, but the ability to say conflict for conflict's sake isn't going to get us anywhere. Let me show you very clearly where we agree so that we can move forward. I think about following somebody with these two. I put down clarifying consensus if you had both of these together.
Now, I think about a military general who doesn't enjoy the conflict for conflict's sakes, but knows the conflict will bring about resolution, and then will mitigate or negotiate a peace at the end. And so when we bring those two together, I think about that kind of that perfect general or that perfect military leader that has to live in those worlds of command, of moving people forward, but for the ultimate purpose of peace.
Sure.
And so that's just what it reminded me of. Let's look at harmony and restorative.
Yeah, restorative's an executing theme. It's about fixing things. Abby lobbied for this one late today, so here we go. Restorative plus harmony together. Problems are normal in life, so they don't upset you. Your practical, even-keeled approach calms others and promotes peace. I think about restorative as being the hands that harmony uses to get toward peace. Restorative can be really about what are we doing, what are we fixing. Restorative can also be very aware of things that are broken before they're even broken, because that's where your radar is tuned into. So it could be heading the conflict off at the pass before it becomes a conflict. I think it probably aims the restorative toward group collaboration. If you think about them in two words, restorative plus harmony is a collaborative rehabilitator.
That's powerful. Like it. Next week, we're going to talk about includer. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, week after next, right? So it'll be the 17th of June. No, something. The 10th that week. We're going to talk about includer. Includer is about making the circle wider, and harmony, again, is about consensus. So if you put these two together, it sounds like this. You want to be there. You want there to be acceptance of those outside your circle and agreement by those inside your circle. Just let that sink in a little bit. I think about assimilate and agree. So the includer, maybe, this is just a theory, I would love to hear from somebody who has both of these, but my theory is that you're focused on consensus, you're looking for agreement, but maybe you are thoughtful about diversity, thoughtful about how the agreement is going to not just be around the table with the people here now, but how it's going to affect the rest of your organization, the rest of your community, the rest of your world, and how that agreement might be aimed toward larger groups of people.
Talk a little bit as we think about includer for next week. Give a little preview of what's coming up in 2 weeks. Sorry, I keep too used to doing this weekly now.
I know, it's going to be really sad not to be with you guys next week. I'm going to be on a 6-hour car drive road trip with a 9-month-old, so wish me luck.
Hopefully that'll be better than the 3-hour cruise that our friends on the SS Minnow took.
You know what? I do sing that to him quite a bit. But you know what? I think Simon, my 9-month-old, might have some includer in him. Here's the segue. So includer is all about making the circle wider, constantly thinking and being aware of other people. It's a relationship building theme. The reason I think Simon might have it is on this 6-hour car drive, we're going to have to stop frequently, not because he needs to stretch his legs, but because he's got to be seeing the other people who are around him. And this kid loves nothing more than being in a shopping cart in a busy place. So it could be woo, it could be includer, but it is an awareness of others that is innate and helpful, sort of practical. It's really about how are we affecting other people? How can we invite and include others? Think about people with high includer maybe struggling to sit on bleachers because it's a single file row and they can't feel the presence of everybody. They would probably be more comfortable sitting in a circle because it's, again, that contact with a larger group of people. Includer could be something that drives your strategy. And I think about it as being something that I started my career out as a journalist, and I was confused as to why I had includer at that time, and it was in my top 10. And I remember a coach telling me, this is years after I had left the journalism business, but she said, you know, Micah, it doesn't walk through the door first for you. It's probably not your primary motivation, but I bet your stories always had an element of how's this going to affect other people, or a more cerebral element of, you know, how's this story going to come across to people unlike yourself. So includer has an element of consideration for others, also just that desire to make everybody feel like they're a part of what's going on.
So speaking of making everyone feel a part of what's going on, we actually skipped ideation. So next, in 2 weeks, Micah, the schedule has ideation on it, not includer. So somehow
How did we do that?
We skipped past it.
I looked in my book, and I must have had pages that were sticking together.
Yeah, we'll say it was our idea to include includer, and maybe give them 2 weeks worth of traction on that. We will in 2 weeks. For some of you, you're watching this in a time shifted manner, and you don't even care because it's 2 weeks was 2 months ago. But we will come back with ideation. We actually talked a lot about ideation today. You and I both have that. It's 7 for me. Where's it for you?
4.
Okay, so it's pretty high for both of us. We together, it's really scary because we can in a half hour or 45 minutes, we can come up with some pretty scary ideas on some things to do. Now, getting them actually done is a little bit. I'll activate right away on them, but for me, my activator is so high that if I don't get it done that day, it gets forgotten by the next. You know, I can have 7 great ideas and only remember 1 2 hours later. That's how that's how that rolls for me. But we spent a little bit of time on that today, so ideation is high. I think it's high for the group that's listening out in chat as well. So I think we're pretty well.
Because are they rioting? Are they revolting that I
they were
can't
like, hey, are you skipping
alphabetize
ideation?
things?
Are you skipping ideation?
Do you know what's funny is
Skip it.
I'm sitting here thinking in my brain in INCLUD, and then I was like, how is ideation is next.
That's right.
Well,
by
you
the
got
way,
a bonus preview of Includer
You
that you're
did.
going to get again when we talk about ideation.
Well,
So
we
this
didn't
is
leave it
all
out.
working out for people.
We didn't want to leave Includer out, so we put it in there.
Includer likes to be included.
That's right. That's right. If you are
Ideation does too, though, and it rocks. Let me tell you.
it's
In 2 weeks, when you hear Jim and I both talk about ideation, prepare yourself.
super power is what I say. It is a superpower. Speaking of superpowers, if you turn your companion guide over or on the second page, however you decided to print that, we've been highlighting some of the tools that are in the back of the companion guide. Today I want to look at the roles I play, words that describe who I am, because I kind of alluded to this in the beginning of the program. Some great words when we think about what we can say, when we think about this theme of harmony. Mediator, of course, we talked about. Arbitrator, which I think is a good one. I think ambassador is
don't you love that one?
Powerful. Yeah, just the role of an ambassador who's on foreign soil to really be the representative of that country in this case, to keep peace, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the role of an ambassador is very, very, very important. It gets downplayed in our culture with the U.S., the way politics work today. I think it gets a little downplayed, but I think the idea is super powerful.
You know what made me ideation here? When you said representative, it made me think about calling people on like a customer service sort of piece where you just shout over the computerized representative. But can you imagine somebody in customer service with high harmony? How they could just sort of deflate the emotion, bring an emotional balance, not a dispassionate approach, but some emotional balance to the situation, and help you think about how can we solve this problem, move forward together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Some other words like pragmatist, like negotiator. I like this word ombudsman.
Who doesn't love that word?
That's a great word. Military, the Navy uses that a lot for those folks that are staying behind as troops get deployed. There's an ombudsman who stays behind to kind of mediate that role between the families and the sailors. I love that. I just love that.
I will give 500 points to anyone who can successful use the word ombudsman in the next week.
Yeah, or rhyme it.
Rhyme it. Ooh, that's
book,
worth 501 points.
That would be words that rhyme with ombudsman.
Ombudsman.
Diplomat and peacemaker. Those are some of the terms, and so the value of what you get on the back side of the companion guide, we'll say the B side, which is hardly a B. It's some great material on the back side of the companion guide. Make sure you get those downloaded. Many of you are asking me all the time, is there any place I can get all the companion guides in one place? The answer is no. Sorry,
not yet.
We have not made them all yet available. Each week we put them out, and yeah, I'm sorry you have to get an email and go download them. Just make sure you keep that PDF that you get, and you can put them in an own section that you get to keep. We have not made those available yet, but they're available each week. In fact, for ideation in 2 weeks, that one's already actually out there and available. You could go out and download it today. The best way to do that is to go to coaching.gallup.com. Look for the GWSW tab. That's at the very top, and that's got every companion guide we've made so far that is out there and available, and by the end of the year, we'll have those available for you. Micah, any final thoughts on harmony?
Yeah, sure. My final thought, I was looking for quotes about collaboration, and I came up with a really simple one that I think helps us understand harmony. It's from Helen Keller, and it says, "Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much."
That's a good quote. It's really good. The whole purpose of this thing is to bring people together and to be better versions of ourselves that we can do. Of course, I love the team aspect to it, and I think we always say StrengthsFinder is very powerful in the context of an individual. I say it's exponentially powerful in the context of a team. Mm-hmm. And so it's important we have these discussions and have these personal discoveries, but it's also really important that we begin to work on these themes as teams, taking advantage of the theme dynamics or the complementary themes that we have, all those nuances that come together and that we make those teams powerful in the context of StrengthsFinder. So hopefully you're not only working as a coach or whatever, you're not only working on this individually, but you're bringing these together in teams. Don't forget we have that team grid available. Really, you can make your own. It's just names down the side and themes across the top. You just put them in. It's not hard to do. It's not rocket science. The value is not in the tool, but in the discussion that goes along with it. So make sure you're having those discussions with people.
Yeah, and I think it's really easy to have those discussions whether you know your strengths or not. You just listen to 45 minutes of why you should love harmony. Maybe you should go find somebody who you think has it and tell them why you love them.
Yeah, imagine what a drop that would be in their bucket. If you
Here's what I love about you.
Here is what I love about you, and everybody needs to hear that. So super important. We'll remind everyone to take full advantage of all the resources we have available. I mentioned that team grid. It's available at the Gallup Strength Center. Just go to sign in with the ID you had, gallupstrengthcenter.com. Send us your questions, comments. We do love your comments. You've been sending them in, and we do love getting them. If you're interested in being a guest blogger on our coaches site, our award-winning, record-setting
World record-setting blog.
World record coaches blog that are made by Gallup site. We'd love to hear from you. So put guest blogger in the subject line and then send the email to coaching@gallup.com. You can also catch the recorded audio and video of this program as well as all the past ones. We've got a bunch of them out there now. Lots of resources, hundreds now, literally hundreds of hours of a video for you to get caught up. And by the way, if you have not been listening to Call to Coach and you think it's only for coaches, there have been some dynamite programs that are done. Not only Paul Allen coming on, but Dean Jones has come in and done 2 sessions on some dynamite teaching. Like, you don't get this anywhere. So you should be subscribing to Call to Coach as well. Even if you're not a coach, there's some great material available in our Call to Coach channel. Of course, we continue to interview coaches, and they'll give you some insight. Again, if you're not a coach, they'll give you some insight in how this is being used in companies. We talked about it just recently in a district court. We talked about it recently at a medical center down in Kansas. I mean, there are some great discussions going on. So if you're into this Theme Thursday thing and you haven't caught on to Call to Coach, same channel, head out to coaching.gallup.com/subscribe, and the buttons are there.
It's like finding out your favorite lunch place also serves dessert. I mean, what a bonus.
And it's good dessert. Let me tell you, Call to Coach has never been better. Those are real, and it's real examples and real people. It is great stuff. If you listened early on and you moved away from it, it's time to come back. We'll remind you the links to our Facebook group, YouTube page, iTunes and RSS feeds, the iPhone and Android apps, as well as all that weekly strengths wisdom programming that we've been talking about. It's available on the coaches blog, coaching.gallup.com. And, of course, be sure to follow us on Twitter. Stephanie does a great job of tweeting each day. Lots of great information at StrengthsFinder gets you there. If you're interested in becoming Gallup Certified Coach, see the list of all our courses, and why would you not want to be a certified coach? Courses.gallup.com. Send us an email, certification@gallup.com. If you have questions in advance, somebody will call you right back. If you're interested in discovering all 34 of your talent themes, and this comes up every once in a while on the Facebook page, head over to the Gallup Strength Center, gallupstrengthcenter.com, and click on the Purchase tab, and there's an option to upgrade to 34 from top 5 right there. And there's some reasons we don't do 34 right out of the gate, because when you have all 34, this is the best time to pick up a coach. And by the way, all of our certified coaches available in the coaches directory. You should check that out as well and get a coach to help you work through. If you do all 34, I really recommend you get a coach. That's really the best way to handle this. It's a lot of information, and having a coach help you work through it, especially one of our certified coaches, would be fantastic. If you found this helpful, we'd ask that you share it. And with that, we look forward to the next Theme Thursday, and we'll say goodbye, everybody.